Hey, what's up?
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Welcome everybody to the Long Play podcast with Jangara
Olango.
and yeah, so today we're going to be discussing a very exciting topic, especially for this guy over here who is probably busting himself. Can't wait to discuss this, but we're going to be discussing a new initiative that's happening that might change a lot for artists in this
continent,
Africa.
yeah. So it's basically revolving around creating a sustainable tour circuit, and it's something that Kendrick Lamar and Dave Free's company Pglang and Global Citizen have come together to sort of and Global Citizen and the Rwandese development.
The government, basically.
Yeah,
no?
basically the government.
Are coming together. I'm sure you guys have heard about Move Africa. Anyone who's a Kendrick Lamar fan knows that he's soon going to be performing in Kigali, Rwanda. Depending on the time that you're watching this video, he might have already performed.
Yeah.
But of course, he's performing and in partnership with Global Citizens. And
but I think the thing that stands out for me is it's not just the performance.
It's not just the performance.
It's that it's a 5-year plan to sort of like gradually expand. So every year there's gonna be a Move Africa, but the idea is by the 5th year to have gotten to 5 countries, I believe, in the same year. So then eventually it becomes a circuit. So what they're basically trying to build is a tour circuit in Africa, basically connecting East Central.
What is a tour
North.
circuit for those who might not? It might not be too obvious.
Too obvious. I mean, it's basically a circuit. A circuit is just like a connection of different.
If you focused in physics class.
Yeah, so it's basically that, like as in it's a connection of different, in this context, different places that you're able to then put the same performance in those different places.
So it's like a tour. Like
It
if you
is a
think
tour,
about
yeah.
your favorite artist right now, especially your favorite international artist, every time they put out an announcement that we're doing a tour in Europe or we're doing a tour in America or something, and they are going to different locations.
Basically, yeah.
And basically, performing.
And that now is basically
so
a
it's
circuit.
a tour. So that's a circuit.
Yeah, so then it becomes like, if say you have different locations that are set, mostly now is arenas and festivals, then it means the next time I drop an album as a musical artist, I can then still go to the same, use the same path, or another artist can use the same path, because sort of like the infrastructure, and the ecosystem around has also been set up to take in or soak in
Tours,
basically, yeah.
Artist touring.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Let's just start from basics.
Foundation, okay.
Basics. Why do you think Kendrick and Global Citizens feel that there's a need to come into Africa and make it easier for artists, for musicians to tour?
Honestly, the real reason, Global Citizen always wants to get rid of poverty, right? And one of the things in getting rid of poverty is really equipping people with the capacity to sort of be able to be self-sustainable. Absolutely. So I believe in this whole thing that they're doing, there's room for that.
They want to help musicians and artists be self-sustainable within the continent, you think?
And not just within the continent,
obviously. Yeah.
And not just within the continent, but also to attract. Because the thing is, say Kendrick, for example, with his Mr. Morale and Big Steppers, his recent tour, he's done over in arenas. He's done over like 70 shows, but none of them is in Africa.
Of course.
So it's across 6 continents. It's your Asia, your all those places. None of them is in Africa. So
which is a reason. Something I really want to discuss. Like, why not Africa? Why are a lot of international artists not touring Africa?
And in truth, it's not even just a lot of international artists. a lot of even African artists, because I saw Beyonce done with some with an executive from KQ the other day, basically similar to this, and they were talking, and he was like, yeah, he's so excited to be in partnership with KQ because he feels that now he can be able to tour Africa easily. There's so many, there's mind-blowingly so many factors. First of all, traveling within Africa
is very expensive, and if you look at our artists, our musicians, it's very difficult for them to make that money back. Basically, if they want to be touring to different countries. First of all,
discuss, like, there's the equipment,
there's the personnel that you need. There's the.
I think one of.
Anyway, wait first. I finish that.
There's a lot to talk about.
I know you're very excited, but I really do feel it's important for us to mention some of these reasons why it has been difficult for musicians to tour Africa, African musicians and international musicians, and of course one of the reasons is it is very expensive. We all know that right now African governments are now starting to embrace visa-free traveling. From from one African country to another. So now hopefully things will start to get easier, but they've been difficult in that way. They've been difficult in terms of infrastructure, the reality of our roads, the reality of our air travel, the reality of our transportation in general. It's still growing, but there is a reality about how they can handle an artist traveling with equipment and all of these things that is required for touring, basically. Because I imagine when an artist is touring, most of them like to carry their own equipment, because sometimes when you get to the country that you're traveling in, they do not have the equipment that you need to do your performance.
But I mean, there's that. There's a mix of that, and you can also like partner with, if say for example, traveling with a certain mixer, even just a sound mixer, is gonna cost me this much in terms of fuel, in terms of the car, in terms of but there's available mixers within the circuit, then it makes
if they are, but we're assuming are they though? Reality, like right now, if I wanted to go to say Zanzibar, or I wanted to just go to maybe Tanzania is Bongo is huge, but like there are many countries where you might not find that mixer that you want. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Some countries that are a bit more ahead in terms of music have a lot more like South Africa. There's a lot more that perhaps if you wanted to tour to South Africa, it might be a lot easier for you than if say you wanted to tour in Ethiopia or South Sudan or DRC, especially countries that unfortunately have some level of unrest. It becomes a little difficult for them to have access to these things, the right equipment. So
I think another thing that's actually crucial to sort of mention, when you're traveling in Europe, for example, because a majority of tours, where even if it's not arenas and festivals, happen in Europe during summer, and the States, and other Asian countries, or Asia, or even your Australias or the Oceanic. But the thing that's consistent with a place like Europe, that's a continent that has multiple countries in it, is they will have one currency. That's also a very big factor to consider, because say for example, like right now in Kenya, fuel is cheaper in Tanzania and in Uganda than it is in Kenya. We have a stronger shilling than both countries, but there's so many factors, because the dollar rate, for example, the dollar exchange rate in Tanzania and in Kenya, when you equate to the two of them, or even with Uganda, then there's a difference. Then the Kenyan shilling against the Tanzanian shilling, for example, has fallen by a certain number of percentages in there. So like there's nitty-gritties, there's just small nuances.
Small things that make it difficult.
So it means like with every country you'll need a different like budget to be able to, like you say for example, unless it's like it's a factor to consider. Because there's a nuance of the numbers will be different. Okay, cool, you can use one you can use you can use dollar, you can use euro, you can use one currency, but when you convert it into like now the local currencies, it becomes absolutely different
and becomes almost, what's the word, like unstable, like I don't know.
So it
but
probably
I get
means,
what you mean.
yeah, so it probably means like like
I think there's definitely a lot of reasons that make it quite difficult. Another one is, for a lot of African artists, their fan base might not be as big in other countries as they need to be able to make the money back. Does that make sense?
But then
wait.
I think we're talking. Okay, wait. I think first of all, just to clarify, guys, watch the video through the end because we're talking about the problems first. But we are gonna offer solutions, our possible or probable solutions to save problems.
It's important to lay the foundation. Yeah. Why is it difficult for musicians to tour in Africa? And then if you're able to identify the problems, then we're able to understand why Pglang and Global Citizen felt that it was a need for them to come in. And then we'll discuss what do they want to do and how can they make it sustainable. So that's the trajectory of like this podcast today. So don't start feeling stressed because you're hearing
we're just talking about
all
the
negative things.
No. We're here for solutions.
We're here for solutions, guys.
Yeah.
So where was I? Yes. So I was just saying that, of course, as an artist, if I'm touring different countries, I definitely want to make the money back, or at the very least break even. Right?
It needs to be sustainable.
It needs to be sustainable. But if I don't have a big fan base in a lot of the countries within my continent, it becomes a little difficult. And some of the reasons why some people might not have the largest fan base is not it can be language barrier, but it also can be, in a lot of countries, Africa, a majority of Africa is rural, whether we like to admit it or not. A majority of Africa is still rural. And sometimes it can get difficult for artists to be able to kind of penetrate those areas and get their music, market their music hard enough that it gets to the larger population.
But I feel like that has an easy solution.
What's the easy solution?
Collaboration. You don't have to do the groundwork there if you can collaborate with the person who has the influence there. I'll give you an example. When Burna Boy played his stadium gig in the UK, all those top UK artists were playing with him. Like then if you have your if you have your Santander, if you have your all those guys, they come with their audience as well.
So it's basically, that's kind of like on the artists a bit to really push themselves to do as many collaborations as possible within the continent.
That's one angle. Like if you work with, like I'll give you an example. Whenever Burna Boy has worked with East African artists, he always in those songs, I'm using Burna Boy a lot, but like in those songs, he always has Swahili. He's always like, okay, cool, teach me how to say this in Swahili. Or what does this mean in Swahili? Siezi wacha rumba.
Probably doing it intentionally so that he can penetrate the market.
Intentionally, like Yemi Alade did an entire song in Swahili.
That's true.
So like, I think one of those things, there's that, collaborating. Two, you can also, there's collaborating on a song, but then there's also, like, come open.
What do you mean come open?
Come play in the same gig.
I see.
Okay,
open for a major artist in that country.
And it's debatable on whether you'll play before or after, because I know artists who don't want to play before another artist, which is okay, but like basically play on the same stage. So if you have influence in this country and I don't have as much influence as you, then let's collaborate on the actual concerts. What that does is it's that person becomes your distributor, right? So your margins may be a little less on this end, but you still have larger margins than you would have had if you did it by yourself. So I feel like that's amongst the easiest sort of like things to tackle.
To tackle.
Yeah.
Really, that's interesting.
I feel like the things that are really integral is capacity in terms of capital, and not just money, but like machinery and skilled labor.
Definitely.
Of course, the varied, the things that we talked about, the visas, travel costs within Africa, that we don't have, a currency that we can be able to use. Such factors then change, and even the things that you talked about, things like travel of the equipment, basically the road system, the road rail or air system.
Oh my goodness, yeah, because international artists have to think land, they have to think sea, they have to think air, like it's mad crazy. Another thing obviously is I hate to have to bring up this, I don't usually like to talk about this as much, but the poverty rate in Africa as well does influence that a bit, in the sense of for an artist to break even, the ticket prices need to be, a certain price. And sometimes in some countries it's a little difficult for it's a little difficult for them to reach those ticket prices unless they're like really, really cheap. Case in point, like what Kendrick Lamar is doing in Kigali, you pointed this out to me, that the tickets are significantly cheaper than they would be normally, right? Because they're trying to make it affordable for the masses, right? And like the tickets right now, how much are they going for Kendrick Lamar? In Kenyan shillings, or in dollars, whichever.
In Rwandan francs, your gold ticket is about like 85,000, and the other one is maybe like 120 or something. Which
is equivalent
if you convert, it's probably like 6,500 thereabout.
Kenyan shillings.
Or is it 6,000? Maybe 7,000, and maybe about to 12,000 average.
Which, if you think about it, is quite pricey for a lot of people. And to think about, like, it's actually quite pricey, but it's significantly been reduced.
So I did the math with just the same tour that he's been on. The same tour that he's been on has grossed about 110 million USD, and he sold about 900 or something, 920,000 tickets in the process.
How much?
So averagely, that's just about $100
per ticket.
Just about. Of course, slightly above $100 per ticket. If you convert that comes to about like 19,000 Kenyan shillings. 19 to 20,000 Kenyan shillings. So for him to sell at
6,000 to 7,000 Kenyan shillings,
2/3 of the fees have been subsidized.
It's been really significantly
So
reduced.
the thing that they're actually trying to figure out, this is for Pglang and
Global Citizen,
is how to make it sustainable without subsidy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, and I feel, and this is actually, okay, back home, we did an amazing review on Soulfest.
Yes.
And I remember like the night of Soulfest.
Soulfest is a music festival in Kenya by
the biggest exports from Kenya.
Okay, yeah,
Sauti
Sol. So just context for those who might not know what Soulfest is, and just in 2023 they had a capacity of they had 15,000 people in one of the shows that is just believed to be like one of the best ones so far.
So one of the things that I remember speaking with Mike Rabah is one of the OGs in the industry who's been a promoter ever since. He has his own like equipment company and all. And I remember like one of the things we were talking about was, of course, it was like, yes, it's finally happened. Like it's great seeing not just top production, but the numbers, because they almost made they almost made $1 million.
Yeah.
From just
and that
tickets.
has not happened before in Kenya.
From just tickets. So the thing was, how are we able to replicate that times? Of course, it's not just meant to be in Africa. They have to travel the world in the same breath. But that's what Kendrick has done. You do that because that's the same. It's the same ticket price, 20,000.
Yeah.
It's the same ticket price. So the thing is, how are you able to do 70 of such shows? We did one. How are we able to get to 70? Of course, again, it's not just in the context of Kenya, but in Africa, and so that is also something else. And I feel actually, this is something that I feel we forgot.
Yeah.
One of the other things that makes it hard or would make it hard is we don't have
For artists
Yeah.
to tour in Africa.
we
Yes?
don't have. Okay, so Kendrick in his tour he did. He's gonna by the time he's done this year. He has another one in Pretoria, I think, or Johannesburg Hey Neighbor Festival, I think, happening in December, a few days after Kigali, and that will be his 101 gig from 2022 through to end of 2023. So maybe like for a span of 1.5 years, he's done 101 shows. 70 of those are in arenas. The others are in festivals. Festivals is basically like what
We experience.
what we experienced.
It's very. I know how festivals are. Open
So and
air
that's
most
open
of the time.
air, and that's like yeah. But the thing is, festivals most times have multiple artists
Multiple artists
over days, and also the 30 or so gigs that Kendrick didn't do in arenas, he was headlining festivals.
Okay.
But the 70 of them were in arenas. And the thing that does is there's also some costs that it cuts for you.
Okay.
Most arenas are actually built, are event venues. You know, so they come with a level of infrastructure that becomes easier for, or slightly lighter on the production. You know, if say for example, guys are very technical and creative in their productions where they want to, the light design is heavy, it means you have to start from darkness. If you're doing open arena, if you're doing open field, it means you have to actually have a tent that's gonna cover for you to be able to have the same light design effects.
I see.
So that's a lot more things that you need to hire, right? Let's look at even in Kenya, the National Theatre. National Theatre already has a certain some light equipment
It does
in-house. It already has some sound equipment in-house. So you basically now top up based on your production. It probably also has, most of them also have like rigging apparatus up top on the roof. So it becomes easier for
to set up the stage in the way that you
yeah,
desire,
even the
basically.
trussing and all of that. So you don't have to. It's small elements, but it'll reduce
make a
the cost.
difference.
They'll make a difference in the long run. If you're doing 70 shows, you know, if it's, let's even give it an hypothetical $1,000. If you're doing 70 shows, that's $70,000. That's just a hypothetical. Of course, the cost won't be just, you know, so that's $70,000 that you then sort of like take off.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have that many arenas.
We don't have that many. I don't even think.
Have in our country yet.
No.
At least Kigali, Rwanda has one. That's BK Arena. So.
Yeah, and it's, I think, okay. To be fair, I think we also have, because what BK Arena is, it was basically, okay, yes, it's an event venue, but it's mostly a basketball arena, right?
I see.
Like there's where even the
NBA.
African Basketball League is played at. And also, I guess maybe if we take that direction, though the thing would be now on the technical end, we'd have to consider what acoustics would look like, because they don't make them for music.
Live shows.
They make them they make them for.
So that's a huge part that Africa is lacking in general. At least South Africa now. I know South Africa, like in 2018, Beyonce and Jay-Z and a bunch of other big global artists came for another Global Citizen Festival, basically.
But that was in a stadium.
It was a stadium. But I mean, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics of like the infrastructure that comes with festivals and shows.
It was in a stadium. Remember
but
also, South Africa had just held the World Cup, Football World Cup.
Yeah.
So they built infrastructure
that could make that possible.
could accommodate the World Cup. Because usually it's festivals, arenas, then you go into stadiums, right? And they play in the States, they play in American football stadiums. In Europe, they play in football stadiums, like soccer stadiums, right? So in Africa, that's another thing. So
something that we need.
I mean, I believe we have decent stadiums.
Do we?
that could work for a concert. The thing that is really different from artists who aren't from the African continent and artists who are from the African continent, in terms of the production value, the artists who aren't from the African continent have other elements that we haven't fully picked up. They focus heavily on light design, they focus heavy on stage design, they focus heavy on making their performances theatrical. You know, so I feel like that's one of the things that then for it to work for Pglang and Global Citizen
for
to
Move
actually-
Africa.
for Move Africa, let's call it Move Africa.
Yes.
For Africa to move in that direction, I feel like then those are amongst the elements that us as artists or people in the creative space need to start picking up, like the production level or the production value, and what that would do for it to then bring on the other artists. I'll go into when Chris Brown came here. When Chris Brown
I do
came to
remember when
Kenya,
Chris Brown came to Kenya, Mombasa.
he had a very lean show. Like he didn't do full live. He didn't do like it was basically
It was
backtrack, but like there was spaces of live elements that were recorded into the performance track.
Okay.
And because he's heavy on dance, he had two dancers.
Of course.
So I was playing in the same gig, and we shared the hotel, the same hotel with the dancers. So we were just hanging. Of course, we were in conversation.
Yeah.
The dancers actually didn't come with Chris Brown from the States. They came with Chris Brown, or they came from Europe,
Okay.
but they had been given the choreography. They're like, okay, cool, this is how the choreography is, these are the steps and all of that. Whatever the language they use to write down choreography, or I don't know how they communicated, but they didn't come from the same place. They met on stage.
On stage.
And I've also played for musicians where I've met the musicians on
On stage. You didn't practice with them. You guys basically
They
practiced
basically,
different.
yeah, they send you the sheet music. They send you the sheet music, and because I guess in Africa we also believe in heavy spiritual stuff in terms of the music, and it's that way globally. But like we had maybe one other session with the music director, with that artist's music director, you know, like one actual tangible session to, I guess, have a feel, because there's only as far as sheet music can go, you know, like it's very,
I see.
but the feeling has to come out right. So we had another session with the music director, but
Okay.
I just met, like, we did the intro, we did all of those things, and I just see the artist come. More than once it's happened. Even artists who've come, even American artists who've come and played here, the Aloe Blacks and all them guys, they didn't come with their band. You know, they got musicians from here to play for them. You know, like we've done that a lot. And I think one of the other things that I noticed when we were in, when we were on a tour with Karun in South Africa, Karun is an amazing artist from Kenya. So I was on tour with her in South Africa, and one of the things that happened is just because we weren't able to travel with the entire production team, and traditionally I was experimenting still on now the other elements outside the stage. I was experimenting on lights and visuals and all. Usually I write those notes and then but to go through sound check and all that, like I just have a moment with the light design and all. But like I wrote the notes and gave it to their light engineer. The guy we met at that festival.
And he just did what he
And
could.
he just
from
did
the notes.
From the notes. So I think that's another.
I agree.
That's
I feel like
another-
that's like your point is like on expertise. It's like getting to a place where you just create magic on stage as an African artist. However,
But
Did they not-
when you, that's true. But when you create magic on stage as an African artist, because it takes a village to create magic on stage,
I know.
what that does is now there's professionals on the other elements. You have amazing stage managers, you have amazing light designers, you have amazing visual artists for the graphics, you have amazing guys who so what then that would do to make Move Africa happen, for Kendrick to not have to travel with his entire production team
Is that he would have, the personnel would be here.
Yeah, he would have a personnel that,
It would even be cheaper, I guess, because they don't have to travel.
Yeah, so you cut the travel costs, you cut the accommodation costs.
I definitely get that as a point. Has I just feel like it has to start from the bottom, like from the core, from the skeleton. Like to be able to make it sustainable has to start from the skeleton. One of the things is that I really feel like it boils down. Why? You want to go pee? So when I'm saying my point is when you want to go pee. I'm sure you wanted to pee mid your point, but it's all right. I'll wait. All right. So back to my point.
Yes.
I feel like it has to start from the ground.
Explain.
It has to start from the people of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It has to start from the people of Africa seeing that this whole artistic venture, music, live music and everything can make economical sense for them. Because if you want them to show up to these live events, if you want them to make kind of like collaborate business-wise with these events, they need to know that these events can make money for them, can sustain their families, can sustain their livelihood, etc. Because I just feel like we love artists, we love all these musicians. But when a musician comes and their ticket is highly priced, we just automatically assume that we can't make it there, we can't go because it's too expensive, we can't afford it, we have bigger matters to deal with, such as health or food or political stability or all of these things. We care about those things first because those things are priority for
Fair
us.
enough.
So therefore this wonderful huge artist coming into this space, it's really great, but what is it going to do for us, our economy and everything? And I think that is why Global Citizen also had to ensure that they bring in the whole reduction of poverty and just making sure that it can assist Africans in some way economically. And I feel like that is where it starts. And one more point before you bring something up.
Yeah.
Another one is that for a lot of us, it has to start like in school. It has to start like, we have to start seeing art differently. We have to start seeing live music, musicians, any kind of artistic pursuit differently. We have to respect it a bit and see it as something that that someone can aspire to and that it can change their life. That's something that is starting to happen. I'm so happy that Afrobeats is as big as it is. I'm so happy that bongo music is as big as it is. I'm so happy that Amapiano is as big as it is because it's becoming increasingly obvious to people that music can change Africa, can change people's lives. And I think it starts from the people. Because if you want to, because the arena is not going to be filled with artists only. It needs to be filled with the people who enjoy the music, the people who enjoy the artistic output. And those people, what do those people care about? They care about whether they are okay, whether they are eating, whether they have shelter, whether their country is stable. Those are the things that have to be dealt with first in order for this, I believe, to really function the way that we would love to see it function.
And I think actually, like in just our past 2 points, we've actually found one hack. So if, say, for example, we go back to this initial move, Africa, that the tickets have been reduced by 2/3.
Yeah, the ticket
price. What I would do is literally that. Okay, cool. If there's expertise in and within, okay, so first one is happening in East Africa. If I'm able to rally guys from East Africa to come and be a part of the production crew and not the production crew for the African artists.
But even the international
even for
artists.
Kendrick Lamar. You have your creative director, yes, Dave Free is there. You have your sound engineer who already knows your sound. We can't take that away from you. You have but there's so many other elements that can be filled with guys from here. That's on the production crew. The vendors, the guys who then also are selling whatever food and beverage at the location from here. Of course, I don't think
the transportation economy, the taxis, the motorbikes,
all of those. And I think I think the thing that needs to be normalized is it was so easy for us to get stats on Kendrick Lamar's tour. Right?
Yeah.
It's so easy for us to get, okay, this is the amount of
tickets he sold, how much he's made, etc.
But we don't have as easy access to our own data
and
statistics on the same, because those are amongst the things that would make it easier for the mindset shift to happen. Because if guys see, oh wow, so he almost sold tickets worth $1 million. And then, oh wow, Nyashinsky also did a show and he also sold $1 million. Calligraph did the same, Femi One did the same, all these other amazing artists did the same, and when we go to Nigeria, oh yeah, when we also start speaking, because the numbers that we speak about mostly in the Kenyan, in the African context, is we have debts. The narrative really has to change. And I feel like this is also even with Global Citizen. Like if the narrative changes from, okay, yeah, cool, we understand that you're getting rid of poverty. But the messaging, for it to actually be a mindset shift, it has to really be, we also have to look at the other side. Because let's face it, all these countries, even the guys who are giving us loans, even China, the Chinese government and all, like they're also facing crisis. They're also facing economic crisis. You get? But if only Africa is looked at as the one that is really facing crisis, and it's the narrative really. The narrative.
I hear you.
Because that changes the mindset.
I really like the point you made on collecting data. Because it would be so nice to just know how far we've come.
Let me just finish one more. Okay. Before recording this podcast, for example, I was speaking with Vio. Vio is my brother's nanny.
Okay.
And I had overheard her speaking with my folks about, the son has to go to or join a carpentry course. Okay. And I actually thought that he was passionate about carpentry. So today I was just like, okay, cool. I'd love to give an opportunity to your son with regards to carpentry. Is it something that he loves? Because I overheard the conversation. And it's like, actually, the thing that he loves is dance.
Oh.
And I was like, then why?
Why is he,
And she was skeptical, but then I asked him, you're literally working in a household where you're paid through art.
You're literally being paid through art, yeah.
You're literally being paid through art, plus your bonuses, plus all of those. So there's narrative.
A mindset shift that has to change.
And that will only happen
if
the
exactly what I said.
narrative.
We have to start seeing our artistic pursuits as really professions that can sustain us. When that changes, then we can be really excited about Move Africa. We can be like, okay, Move Africa is coming. Let's do A, B, C, D. And my cousin was telling me, like, during Soulfest, there was a lot of buzz around Soulfest, obviously because it is, in Kenya, one of the biggest festival to have happened with that many people in regards to people and also the the aesthetic of the show and the turnover. So she's just telling me about how once she left the venue, how the place was buzzing with activity. First of all, the location of Soulfest, there's a lot of clubs, other small clubs that are around where Uhuru Gardens is. Uhuru Gardens is where Soulfest happened. Those clubs were packed, first of all. There's a lot of different taxis. There's a lot of different boda-bodas, and boda-bodas are motorcycles that just offer the same transportation service as taxis do. And of course, they use apps such as Uber, Bolt, etc. But they literally even turned off the Ubers and the Bolts, etc. It was just talk. Okay, where do you want to go? You want to go to Lavington? It's 1,000 bob. You want to go to where? People made the community around... The ecosystem around Soulfest. Thrived. Do you understand? And Soulfest is what? It's art. It's live music. It's a festival. And I'm 100% sure if there was a way for us to collect that data, that's why collection of data is so important. If there was a way that we could have collected that data and seen what impact Soulfest actually had on Langata. Langata is the area, right? then if there was a way for us to market that,
Yeah.
to show people, hey,
'Cause then we
look,
know
look what
exactly.
this does, look what this does, because it's really about the people on the
Yeah.
ground. They need to understand what this can do for them, and once they're sold on it,
Yeah.
it would be such a beautiful thing because we would all be in
Yeah.
it.
And let's not even forget, like, as in there's the tickets, there's all of that.
There's a lot.
It was rainy.
There's a
So it
ticketing
means
platforms.
there's guys, it was a ticketing platform.
Platforms.
It means there's the umbrellas, the
The
branded
umbrellas.
umbrellas that were made,
There's
the branded
the gumboots.
cups,
The guys
the
selling
gumboots that
gumboots
were
because
sold,
it rained
the-
like crazy.
you know, like,
It was a whole marketing campaign encouraging people to buy gumboots because it was going to rain. I mean,
the ecosystem, like,
it's beautiful
so it's
to
definitely,
watch.
it definitely can have impact. I think bottom line is the narrative. The narrative
That we
is-
give the people. The
that
people
we
need
give
to
the
understand
people.
what we're doing.
Yeah, and may move Africa not come from a place of philanthropy in terms of narrative. Because if it comes from a
100%.
place of philanthropy, then it's hard to reach sustainability.
100.
You know, it's if it comes from a place of we're here to help Africa fight poverty.
Yeah.
It's great. It can also come from a place of, hey guys,
We see incredible potential.
This is how much that this
Based
whatever
on this,
based
this
on
and
this
that.
data and this numbers and all of that. Then the Africans now feel like they are part of the solution. It's
They're
not
not coming to be helped.
it's
yeah.
not a handout, you know, because the thing is, like, there's brilliant producers, there's brilliant technical guys, there's brilliant artists who can go punch for punch. I'm even gonna say this, who can go punch for punch with Kendrick Lamar. Facts, you know. But that's the thing is, it needs to come from a place of, you know, like,
You have to start by recognizing the talent and the potential that is there, and then make the narrative about the potential,
Yeah.
not about the lack.
yeah, sell the vision, and make the narrative around the vision. So that is the mindset that people start seeing it in. If people are seeing it from a place of, then it's like any other, you know, like it's like any
Yeah.
other philanthropy. Just sorry to say, it'll just be like, you know, some of us will go because we love Kendrick, we want to watch him live, but like, you know, it'll be, man, I wish I would have done something with Kendrick on this one, you know, but they never really, you know, it's cool, cheaper
Yeah.
ticket for Kendrick, yay.
Oh my god!
You know, but like if the narrative is different, I feel like I've really emphasized on the, we've really
I
emphasized
really,
on the
because I
narrative
feel it so
bit.
strongly. I'm like,
But
that is
yeah.
the thing that will change.
And it's from our perspective as Africans.
Yeah.
And from our perspectives as Africans who are industry professionals, who have the expertise, you know, like who have the international level expertise, you know. And I confidently know we're speaking on behalf of our fellow Africans who also have this level of expertise, or even more, you know, or even the ones
Or
who are
even less,
aspiring,
yeah.
you know, like, but in general, we're speaking as Africans for us to be a part of the solution, you know. Yeah, man. And
Yeah, all in all, I'm really super excited about it. I genuinely had no idea just how difficult it has been for a lot of artists to tour, not just their country, but
The
Africa in
continent.
general. I was really like just oblivious to that. But now that I see it, I'm like, wow, I did not realize
Yeah, the
it's that
impact is,
difficult. I
yeah.
didn't realize that a lot of them are going broke while they're doing that, you know, even when they're just traveling the country, moving from one county to another
Yo.
county, they're going broke. And so for me to have read about this, I was excited. I'm like, okay, guys, can we change this? Can we really change it? It would be so great after those 5 years to look back and to say, good job.
Yeah, and I feel like, and this is another thing, this is especially to Kendrick and Dave Free, like, there's a certain level of, if they're really intent into finding a sustainable solution, then there's a certain level of ownership in the narrative that they also have to be or face or be with. You know, like, I was on the Pglang website, for example, and you could see the way all the other, like, past shows and past narratives and past collaborations or even past commissions with your converses and, oh, Kendrick has won this or this and that and this and that. Amazing, you know, like the articles are very personalized, the videos are very personalized. I went to the Move Africa
Website.
icon
Okay.
from Pglang,
Okay.
but it redirected to a media outlet, an article written by a media outlet. Maybe that's a media partner, but like immediately when it redirected, it took me away from the feeling of Kendrick and Dave Free actually really being invested in it. It felt like a CSR,
Really?
you know, and this is, man, I love Kendrick. I love
I
Dave
know
Free.
you do.
I love Dave Free so much. Like, you know, I feel like when it is hacked, when a sustainable circuit is hacked, man, you guys will go down in history for sure. Like, legacy over and beyond. Of course, and the economy, like the economic ramification on your company is also going to be amazing, you know, like as in out and out, socially, economically, and if you want, you can use that influence politically as well, but like it's going to be stupendous. And the thing that will do as well, I feel like they need to now work with our A-listers as well. They need to work with the band, because Burna Boy also hasn't done a stadium tour here. And by here, I mean Africa. You know, barely an arena tour. You know, and that's our biggest export. Akina Rema and all them guys. You know, they recently played, a bunch of A-listers were actually at the same venue, BK Arena, for Trace Festival, Trace Awards, a couple of weeks ago. But like, it'd be amazing to see what that looks like for, you know, then they can come and play at, you know, in place of, because like for us, it's more festivals than arenas.
Yeah, because
I think maybe that's another, and I feel like maybe we touched on it, like as in, if you're able to build arenas, that's another solution.
I think the other thing that we can't escape and we have to tackle is our governments.
The politics.
You know, it's always, it's such a difficult part, you know, and I believe that it's difficult for international artists and really just any organization that's coming in to make a change. Like that's the one that is usually very difficult, and I personally, like, to be honest, I usually feel a lot of despair, like when it comes to discussing like governments in Africa. Of course, I am seeing like some, you know, lights at the end of the tunnel when it comes to certain conversations. But sometimes, you know, like you can really feel your heart sink as an African when it comes to looking at your government, and you really just want your government to support the creative industry, like really give it everything, you know, because you know that this creative industry can really support the country, and most African governments are like yet to get to that point where they heavily support the creative industry, at least at home, you know. And of course we have a case study, you know, K-pop.
I think actually, okay, so there's support, the word support, I feel actually I'd replace it with invest in, and it would be based on, if we had the data, if we just do a quick...
Would they listen?
If we had the data, listen, I feel like it's simple. If we had, okay, cool, say Sauti Sol have made $1 million, right? And there's 20 Sauti Sols. That's $20 million over one weekend. Guys,
did you know actually Sauti Sol, for Solfest, they partnered with the Nairobi County government, by the way? They partnered with the Nairobi County government.
Nice, but yeah, like if, say for example, or yeah, well, Kendrick said he's not our savior in his music, which is true. But like, if we have that level of data from multiple artists, because it's economics, right? And it's numbers. Yeah. So then when the government's like, okay, cool. So this guy's generated $1 billion the past year. No-brainer. I feel like definitely it's a no-brainer. They'll just be like, okay, cool. So what do you guys want? 2%? 2% is very, it might seem as
a small amount, but like But it's a lot more than that.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
it's you know, and it then changes the entire.
So it all starts from the narrative.
It starts from the
Really,
narrative.
that's what it stems from.
It stems from the narrative. It stems
That can
from
be
the
used
data.
to change everybody's behavior
Yeah.
and actions.
And the thing
hopefully.
is, at this rate, artists or creative players are the ones who can really change that narrative, because nobody's gonna come and share that data for us. Nobody's gonna come and collect that data for us. The government, for sure, is not gonna do that. You know.
Okay, now we are calling out to any data research companies.
And
if you do
analysts.
bump into this video, reach out to us. Let's actually figure out like how can we make something like this happen where we have really great data when it comes to the creative industry, what it is doing in Africa, and you know, and any marketing companies on how we can then market that data so that people understand what this means and what this can be.
And what it can change in terms of, you know, like.
I really hope that is something that I really hope it's something that can move the needle.
I believe it can move the needle, because economics, if you're actually an out-and-out economist, it's not based on heart. It's based on mind and numbers, right? So, like, if the numbers are there to show, then any not even just the government, any other investor would be like, okay, cool, so it's generated this much. Okay, and in what duration, and what are the risks, and what are the... So, if I invest this much, the probability of me getting this back from my investment is this after this duration, even considering risks and all the other factors such as inflation and all those things. Because there's data scientists, there's actual scientists, there's all of those guys, there's amazing technology developers, app developers in the continent who can be able to then form that structure. So when the data is available, because one, the data has to be available.
Of course.
Two, the data has to be sorted. Three, the data has to be put in a way that now we understand, in a table form or whatever form. Then it has to be put example-wise.
What do you mean example? Like in comparison
tangible, as tangible as possible, for us to be able to, we're basically dissecting the data and making it consumable to any person. That means not just the investors to understand, but also the guys who are now going to be part of the ecosystem to also understand, because they might not understand the nitty-gritties of graphs and, you know, or the language or the lingo of, you know, but they might understand it when it's put in a certain way. So it has to be, we have to find the data, we have to park the data, we have to align the data nicely, and we have to make it consumable to anyone to understand. Once we have, I feel like once we have that, it can start pushing the needle, because it's easy for guys to be like, okay, cool, it's, you know, there's a track record, there's like there's, you know.
I hear you. You know, I'm so curious. I feel like I want to call Bukali. She wanted to get into a conversation about the sustainability of it. I don't know if she'll pick, but could I call her?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so guys, I'm gonna call my best friend who is really super active in the whole non-profit space, and just hear like what thoughts she has on this.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, Sasa. So Tom and I were just talking about your Kendrick Lamar and Global Citizen and them coming together to make this initiative, your Move Africa.
Yeah.
That's all about like making it possible for African artists and international artists to tour Africa, you know? Sustainably. Because the key part is sustainably, because it's been really difficult for a lot of artists to literally even tour their own countries because of course, issues, infrastructure, security, what else? Just government investment or investment generally, and even just the mindset of people who don't think that such creative arts can create so much for a space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what have you seen in that space? What do you think thus far?
I mean, I think like the intention is great. I I really value the fact that, you know, if you look at Kendrick Lamar's vision, I do believe that it's very well intentioned, and I'm always very happy when I see people of color supporting other people of color, to actually like advance in like whichever field it is that they're experts in. I think it's a really noble cause. I think if you start thinking about it in terms of sustainability, I think Kendrick and the team are going to need a lot of um, African experts in terms of people who are knowledgeable about how to make certain business models work and how to like develop like a system that's very sustainable in terms of doing publicity, because like a lot of artists make more money on tour than actually like on the music they produce, especially artists that aren't too well known, that maybe can't sell music videos too much, or maybe the albums don't sell that much. They mostly make music money on tour. So I think there's value in looking at how is this organization or this company going to align with the ecosystem that's already built. So there's an ecosystem already that we know, like in Africa for touring and whatever. Looking at how they can leverage and take the good things from that, right? And then when it comes to like now building a sustainable model, maybe what they need to think about is um, even interviewing like a lot of these artists to figure out where the gaps are.
Where the
I think
real gaps are.
yeah, yeah, because I think a lot of the mistakes that happen because people don't actually consider the people they're trying to help, or like even depend on their expertise, because I think the people who know the best about what challenges that are being experienced in a sector are the people in that sector. So like it has to be the people who are actively touring, who've seen where the gaps are, who know some of the challenges that they face every day when it comes to management, when it comes to setting up venues. I think they actually need to do like an assessment or like a very early audit, and like have a very good like, what do you call this, like a very big pool of artists, so from different genres, from different countries, because when you bring that together, then you're able to actually actively solve for the gaps in a way that can scale. Don't just take like a small pool and then you say, oh, we interviewed 5 artists from Kenya and that should speak for Africa. It's not going to work, because its contexts vary. So like, yeah, that's my thought around that. I think it's possible to do, but I think they have to invest a lot of time in the preparatory parts, especially like when it comes to doing like a bunch of audits and assessments and talking to people who actually do the work every day. There's a lot of investment and money that needs to go into that, because that's what's going to solve for the sustainability issues.
Tom and I actually also felt that the narrative, like how the narrative is being carried, is one of the most important things. Like if you think about it, we're talking about how collecting data on what's already working is so important, because that's how you can change people's minds. Because the sustainability of it really depends on how the people on the ground, the mamambogas, the boda riders, the taxi drivers, the restaurants, the hotels, all of the people, the entire ecosystem, it really depends on how they view this new thing. And so how you approach these people doesn't have to be, we are coming to help you. It needs to be, hey, look, this is what previous live music events have done for you guys. Look at, like for instance, Sauti Soul's Soul Fest. Seriously speaking, like the space around Soulfest while it was happening, the boda riders, the taxi guys, the clubs around Uhuru Gardens, like they made so much money. The place was buzzing with activity and economic activity. And so we just felt like it's so important to collect data that you can present in a very positive narrative, in a very positive way to the people on the ground, so that they understand what this initiative is and why it's important to them. Because you can tell artists, make great shows, but if if the people who love these artists don't show up because they feel like they have bigger fish to fry, like figuring out their shelter, figuring out what their kids are going to eat, then it's not going to work for everybody.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think that actually speaks a lot to the value of partnership. Like, so for example, I work, in the humanitarian sector, and some of that like extends across different sectors. So when you think about the people you're working to, create really good shows for or with, you also have to consider, like you're saying, like the audience and the people who actually are fans or people who like that music, whatever that looks like. You also need to have, very impactful conversations and very informative conversations with those people who consider themselves either fans or people who support that ecosystem. In that you're also able to solve the problems that they kind of end up having to solve for ad hoc. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to bring everyone together, and also like looking at the audience not and the fans not as people who are just benefiting from this. It could also be the audience are also the push behind it, because a lot of fans will come through when they, for example, know what it is, what causes they're supporting. So for example, even an artist could be that they really care about, let's say, something to do with either a children's hospital or something that, like, an experience that's personal to them, that they care about, and maybe some of the proceeds of that concert are going to that specific issue they care about, because it humanizes people. And I think there's a lot of value, like you're saying, in looking at what do those partnerships bring to the table, but in terms of like across, so that it's not like one group is a beneficiary, quote unquote. It should be that people are coming together to solve for all of these systemic problems, and that's why I agree with you and Tom when you talk about like how they need to collect all this information and also talk to all that entire ecosystem in terms of how to solve for them, because also those communities have those solutions already. They've already solved for some of those things themselves in the past. So it's not like you're coming in like, look at, like you're very new, like what you're doing has never been done. If you come with that approach, it's going to be like people are just looking at you like, look at this foreigner trying to make money here. So you kind of have to like really engage the people you're trying to work with. So I think, and you're right, it works across the ecosystem, not just for the artists and not just for the fans / consumers of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you excited, by the way? Are you going to go?
I might, so I've been sitting here thinking, okay, like, so I'm kind of like doing a work thing, but at the same time, I was thinking at that time I might have a break. It's a good opportunity for me to like meet new people and also like engage in the music as well, and look at also like how the Kigali music industry is like. I think it would be a good experience to have. So yeah, I'm actually like thinking about maybe revisiting what tickets are there over the weekend, because during this week I haven't had a chance to like really think about it deeply. But over the weekend, I think chances are very high I might go. I just need to solve for, on my side, also things like flights, think about where I'm staying, all those things. So I'll need the weekend to do that. Yeah, but I'm planning to. I'm very positively looking forward to it. Have a great afternoon, Tom. Bye.
Bye.
We've talked about data, we've talked about integrating African creatives,
We
both
talked about the narrative.
both on the technical and the creative end, so that way the A-listers who are coming from other continents, if they or when they work with a technical and creative guys from the continent, then it can lead to sustainability. We talked about the narrative shift. We've talked about, of course, investments such as arenas, because then those are long-run investments. It now becomes cheaper for us to be able to do gigs, because we don't have to hire out, like, especially like in gig season where now everyone is doing a gig. There's a shortage of,
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't have to hire out equipment all the time we're doing a gig, then, and not all the equipment, but like if you don't have to hire out a bunch of coastlines from the trussing and all of that, because we have functional arenas, then it becomes a lot more sustainable, because you're keeping our costs relatively low, and at the same time we're still offering quality output, quality productions,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think the point that you made about like artists really getting to a place where they give quality productions, where they have this expertise. Of course, there's an aspect of training that then has to come in, because I know that for a lot of African creatives, or like we are self-taught majority of us.
Yep.
If you think about
YouTube.
me, to be honest, yeah, the fact that I edit, I record, all these things, I literally taught myself how to do it, you know.
YouTube.
But then there are some things that are very practical. I imagine putting together a tour, there's a lot of practical skills that you need that you cannot learn through YouTube.
And I feel like-
yes, you can, but like
Yeah.
it would be best to experience it practically. So having some kind of workshops or
I
something.
feel like
like
there's
that.
actually even guys now from the larger Pglang team can come in handy. You know? And of course Pglang combined with African artists who've also done it
100.
at that level.
Yeah.
Then it becomes applicable from our perspective. So first of all, they have to interact, share their notes, and come up with models that now they feel would work for this continent. Because remember, the difference between this continent and the other continents, as we talked about, there's the visa restrictions, there's currency issues because there's multiple currencies, there's the general travel accessibility, you know, your road and air and all of that. So those are factors to consider that are significantly different in Europe, States, Asia,
and
all of
Africa.
those. Yeah. So yeah, but I feel like there's where Pglang could also like really be of impact at the workshops. At the workshops, because sometimes I don't know, like there's times that guys can be gifted, but when they hear Dave Free tell them, "Yo, you're gifted," it changes them. It changes their self-belief, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not that, again, Kendrick is not your savior.
Yes.
Dave Free is not your savior. But when we work together, we can actually be able to come up with a solution.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we pretty much covered what we wanted to say.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Move Africa.
I'm so looking forward to it. I remember saying this to you before we recorded. I told him, I think this is a very ambitious project. And then you said, no, it's not ambitious at all. Do you remember?
Yeah. I don't think it's ambitious. I feel like it's actually, it could work so fast.
I think that it could. I do believe that it could. Yeah, I just, I hate to say this, but I feel so aware of the clogs, the obstacles, that have been there. And that is why I look forward to actually seeing it happen, so that I would love to see these obstacles be moved out of the way and to see, and to just see the space start to blossom, start to rise. I more than anything, I just want to see this initiative work out and we're
be
supporting
sustainable,
and be sustainable.
as
The
possible.
second that Global Citizen leaves, or the second that Kendrick leaves, or the second that Pglang is no longer on the continent, we want to see a thriving music economy in various African countries.
Yeah,
so
we need to see all. I want to see, first of all, my wish list. I want to see Charisma. I want to see Trio Mio. I want to see Ben Soul. I want to see Nviri. I want to see Brandy Mine. I want to see Kinoti. I want to see Ethan. I want to see Zinnia, Lisa, Karun. All those guys, amazing. And of course, the many more that I may not have mentioned.
Yeah.
I want to see them tour in this circuit.
Amen to that.
I want to see them tour in this circuit. Even if it's just for the sake of seeing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Wow.
It actually has happened. I feel like when at least one of those is on that circuit, be like, then it's worked. Because I know there's the usual, it'll just be your Burna Boys and your Remas and your basically all these top Afrobeat artists, But like the moment you get to Trimi's on that circuit, he's taking that circuit, I'm like, yes. It's now reached full sustainability. Like it's reached full sustainability.
So we're looking forward to it. As you can see, we're so emotionally charged. But yes, we're just hoping the absolute best for the initiative, and we are open to participating in any way that we can.
Whatever capacity, for sure.
So that was it for today's episode, guys.
Yeah.
Until next time, which is very soon because, guys, we literally make episodes like every single day, if not every 2 days.
Yeah.
So, bye.
Bye.
Okay.